States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, good morning, everybody. Will you please make sure your phones are turned off? And again, no texting, please, during the meeting. Next meeting is Friday, April 8th, here at the Community Center. We'll move to the consent agenda. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Any comments? Any comments?
Supervisor Halbig? Yes. Supervisor White?
Yes.
President Miller?
Yes. First item on our action agenda is Resolution 2016-0311-16, and that's a resolution to award the bid on the wastewater treatment plant for the blowers equipment to Kaman Industrial Technologies for $205,380, and to approve budget amendment number 5, 2016, number 5, to fund the purchase. I have a motion to approve.
Second.
Dan, any comments on this?
I'd just like to mention that this was a project that was budgeted in last year's budget, and now we are moving forward with this project, so we're carrying over the funds. I'd like to recommend that the budget amendment, we're going to be taking $100,000. It was budgeted as a purchase of a skid steer. I'd like to use that funding along with $120,000 of impact fees to pay for this project.
Does that change our bottom line at all for this year?
No, sir.
Comments?
Tanya, how was that financed last year? It was a carryover. I'm wondering if we knew we was going to do it, why wouldn't it was carried over with the same line item and the same funding and everything?
It was from prior year fund balance. That is an option as well. We can pull in fund balance monies to pay for it, but I had some money within the budget to actually allocate for this project.
Because I know that this skid steer, we had a long discussion about that, and they said, well, yeah, we absolutely have to have that because the other one's in such bad shape, so on and so forth. But I'm just curious. Also, there's additional. Is there enough money that they're transferring over to the budget to pay for the pad and the pipe installation and electrical installation and all that? It's only like $15,000 differential from what the equipment costs to the actual money we're going to set aside for this.
That's
project.
what we're estimating the actual installation cost to be is about $15,000.
You got no leeway.
Correct.
There's only one bidder. That seems strange. There's only one bidder for this much equipment. Again, it seems to happen to us a lot where we only get one bid. I mean, it's not your fault. Nobody's fault. It's the fact that they just don't respond.
It's based on the vendors that actually provide the product. Yes, there is only one in this case.
Is it maybe a problem with how we're advertising, possibly?
No. We have discussed internally whether or not this was sole source, and we couldn't determine. There's not very many vendors that actually carry this type of a product. So we decided just to go ahead and advertise for it, since we weren't sure. So that's the reason. There's just not very many vendors in this case.
David, we have no problem with that?
No.
Any other board comments? Public comments. Bring it back to the board. Chrissy?
Supervisor Holbert?
Yes.
Supervisor Halbig?
Yes.
Supervisor White?
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin?
Yes.
President Miller?
Yes. Next item is Resolution 2016-3, 11-17, and that's a resolution to reject all the responses to requests for qualifications 16-01 pertaining to electrical engineering services. Do I have a motion to approve?
I so move.
Second.
David, why do we need a resolution on this?
Technically, because it was a request for qualifications. There were some provided, and rather than have them just sitting out there vacant, waiting for the board to take action, the determination was that although I think there was 4 responses, 3 of which had electrical engineers on staff, but not primary people. There was one other firm that had an electrical engineer that was who was a primary, but when we went back and looked at Polson's contract, they have the ability to hire subcontractors out through their existing contract, so we didn't see any reason to.
Well, I looked at all the qualifications myself. Tanya and I went over them, and all I saw, I didn't even see the electrical engineers you saw. All I saw was a duplication of the services that Poston can offer. And one of those firms said they would provide an electrical subcontractor. Well, that's no good in the consultant business because we get a markup from them as they pass that subcontractor through. And I believe, Gator, correct me if I'm wrong, you said that Polson would not be charging any markup whatsoever for these services, so that's a good deal. So essentially that was my feeling. Tanya, you may have some other comments on that?
I agree.
So the upshot is that we continue with Polston. They will provide the electrical engineering services. If it's a subcontractor, then it goes through as if it was a prime, right? Okay. Any comments from the public? Quiet meeting this morning. Back to the board. Okay, Christie, call the roll, please.
Supervisor Halbig,
Yes.
Supervisor White,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Hobart,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes. Next item is discussion to review payment and performance bond costs to E.O. Cook. Tanya, do you want to start that? I know this is something, David, you are proposing, right?
I just thought it might be a good idea based upon historical things that have happened to us in the past on trying to get projects done and making someone accountable for making sure it's done and we're protected. That's the only reason I brought it up. It's close to the $100,000 threshold. Actually, the whole project's well over $100,000, I think, by the time you add the work we've already done and the engineering work we've done. So I don't know if it's worth the $2,200. I think it probably would be. In case you're getting some sort of a spit fight with a contractor and then have to fight him, you can go back to the bonding company to get everything correct. Is that right, David?
Yes. Fair disclosure, Mr. Cook is my uncle, and I did work there for him as an attorney.
You really want to say that? Tanya,
I know they're good quality firms. I know, but I just keep recalling some of the things that happened. Even the last thing on this tennis court, we had a bond on that, but we ended up giving the guy an extra $2,500 because of some extenuating circumstance on that, and we never went back to the bonding company. So if it's not going to be effective, then it's not going to be effective.
Tanya, I think you and David would agree that this is just simply added protection for us. Price is right at $2,200. Any comments from the board?
I just go along with it. Say $2,200 for something that's supposed to be made. I don't know what's going on. Do we have lists on the signs?
No, we do not have a payment and performance bond on the signs.
Well, the problem is, as you well know from the tennis courts and some other things, we need that kind of protection, really. The upshot of this is the fact that if it's over 100,000, it's supposedly required. And this was 88, so it was under, and Supervisor Halbeck made the point, and rightly so, shouldn't we have that protection, even if it adds a little bit to the contract. So that's where we are now. Okay. Public comments? Okay, we'll bring it back to the board. Chrissy?
We need a motion. Technically, we need a motion.
I'll make that motion.
Well, we had a discussion. We're now moving to a motion.
Well, if we're wanting to move forward with asking EO Cook to prepare a change order.
Okay, fair enough. And do we have that motion? All right. I guess any comment on the motion?
The motion is to request EO Cook prepare a change order to supply a performance and payment bond for $2,210.
Rex Bond. Mr. Cook is one of the long-standing residents and property owners in this county. Enjoys an excellent reputation, and to require him to have a performance and completion bond for this amount of money just doesn't add up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Rex. We're not requiring him to do it. The district would pay for the performance bond.
And that's normal. In other words, the person requiring the bond usually pays for it, but it's included in the contract.
Right.
Breaking point there is $100,000.
Beg your pardon?
$100,000 project. It's over that, it's required. Under that, it's optional.
Well, it's done every day, but as I say, if you're looking for someone with an outstanding reputation that has done many, many contracts bigger than $100,000, but no problem, I'd recommend EO Cook.
Thank you. Any further comments from the board? Chrissy will vote on that motion.
Supervisor White,
Yes.
Supervisor Halbig,
Yes.
Supervisor Gilpin,
Yes.
Supervisor Holbert,
Yes.
President Miller.
Yes. Next item is the discussion of our message to the Sun and Lake voters. And since I wrote it, I guess I'll present it. Basically, we've had recently, in this minor extent, I guess for quite some time, questions of why we're still in this landowner popular election system. So I felt that it's not something the board had. By the way, the board has the power to go ahead and ask the county to make that change, whether it be 4 seats for popular or 5 seats. But I felt very strongly this is a community-wide issue, and I think people in the community should have an opportunity to express one way or the other how they feel about it. Frankly, one of the reasons that prompted me to write this was the fact that we have so little participation in our governmental process, but it's even worse for the landowners committee. I look out in the room now, and I can tell you that the only person that consistently participates in the landowner meeting has been Dick Diop. We get nobody else. So does anybody care? So this is why what's behind this message. and let's see how the voters feel about it. It's not a vote, it's a preference. But assuming we get a reasonable amount of response, then that will give this board some direction in that area. And I've tried to make the pros and cons of arguments for or against change, and we'll go for there. So that's basically where we are at this point. And comments from my colleagues?
David, does the urban density requirement play a part of this, or is it just a matter of us going to the county and asking for this?
Based on what I've researched so far, it's just a matter of going to the county. It's going to be just a change to the...
We've moved away from that formula. That's a 189 formula. When we changed our other voting procedure, then we're not bound by that.
You know, I've always been in favor of many popular elected seats that we could get, but you know, and it's probably a small price to pay to minimize the threat of being controlled by one large landowner. And with all this property flipping back to the county, there's a good chance that might happen again. So, you know, I think it's a good idea to get the input from the residents and see what their thoughts are.
Dick, would you explain to everyone how they're going to register and stuff? And what
Well, first of all, this is intended to be sent out here very shortly with this month's utility bills. So that means that everybody in the community that gets a utility bill will receive this message. And there will be two ways of expressing your preference. There'll be 3 sheets set up in the district office that will say, number 1, no change. Number 1, we would like one more popular seat. And the third one would be we want all popular seats, which would be a change of 2. And Tanya, I understand that there'll be some mechanism on our website that people can respond to. Is that correct?
Correct.
How that
actually vote on the website?
Yes, we'll have something set up on the website.
Is there a way to verify that they're residents?
We can do it next week.
Is there a way to verify that they're residents? To make sure they're the ones that are voting?
We haven't talked through those details just yet, but we'll come up with something.
I have proposed that on the sheets in the district office we have 2 boxes, and that's simply you check one if you're year-round residents, you check another if you're a part-time resident. So that's where we are.
But are they going to be verified as land owners? They have to be verified as land owners.
It's not an election, it's a preference, and I assume that people are going to be honest about their situation here.
Well,
it's not a binding vote, it's a preference.
I understand. They say it's on the water bill. It could be just a rental. That's what I was saying. How you can separate that?
Well, that is a good point. That's a good point.
You got to make sure that they're actual landowner, not just a water bill payer.
Or qualified voters, both on the electoral side, or popular side, and the landowner side. They have to be one or the other, but verified. It's going to be difficult to do, I'm pretty sure. But
well, the one way to control that is not put it on the website. Keep the district list and have people credit it when they come in.
well, the application or the paper they fill out could have their name. They should sign their name and their address, and then it'd have to be checked by somebody, just like a normal, just to verify that they're.
Well, that's what's proposed right now. Is that they check their name, and their spouse can vote as well, and they have their address. And then they check either full-time or part-time residents. I guess after everything is in, we could verify, the list meets cage.
There's about a box on it, just verifying that you are a property owner to check it. That would help some.
Yeah, that could be.
Yeah, we'll come up with some details, I think, because we're also needing, obviously there's landowners who aren't residents,
And they're entitled to vote.
They'll be able to do that through the website. Driver's licenses may be the easiest way to prove residence, because technically, even if you are a renter here, your residence is, has to be listed on your driver's license.
Yeah, but we also want to make sure that our part-time residents have an opportunity to participate as well. So that would be more in the driver's license. That would seem to be a property check. Well, I think.
You had something to say?
Just a minute. Tanya, we could work out those details, right, so that we have some accreditation?
Yes, and we just need a consensus from the board to move forward with this poll. So we can work out those details.
Okay. Any hear from the public on this?
Morning. Bill Norcross, resident. I know this vote could be kind of confusing because they don't know if it's a binding one or not. You've explained it's not. But they do have an election coming up Tuesday. So maybe that you could capture some kind of survey by asking the people that actually do vote and care, who may have participated in the survey, and you may be able to get a good feel exactly how people feel about it instead of, keep on putting this thing off. Just a suggestion.
Thank you, Bill. Anybody else? Larry? Exactly what we're addressing. Rex?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm assuming that this is a straw vote.
Yes.
It is not binding. It's just
Yes.
for informational purposes. And I think that's
As meant as hopefully some guidance for the board.
Thank you, sir.
Bill Jackson, resident. I understood when they first started developing Sunny Lake that they had mostly property owners election because they wanted to protect, and I don't blame them, protect their investment in Sunny Lake. And they set it up so as we became more and more populated, we would turn to regular elections. Well, we had a change, and that has always been a fiasco. Just mentioning the landowners' election up there, I got amusement out of watching everyone. This turns into a fiasco every time. But let's talk about elections. I know in Canada and the United States, we expect fair and honest elections. It's just something we expect. Our democracies have been around a long time, and that's what we do. Well, I'd like to remind back to maybe 8 or 9 years ago, we lost that right in here, because NRPI come in here and bought every lot. One election, we went out and got votes for Mr. Miller. I think we got up close to 2,000. Well, they had one guy walk forward, I believe it, I don't see him here today, handed in the NRPI slip, and we lost the election. I don't know about the rest of you, but I was suspicious. We had the board, not the board secretary, determine whether your votes are good or not. She didn't like the way you marked this, marked that, and she could take a vote and throw it out. I think if you look at the board stayed basically the same over all those years. Because you couldn't get on the board as far as a property owner goes unless NRPI come in and tuck you under their wing. Thereby, they control these people. And I know
Bill, excuse me, you should mention at the time you're talking about, the landowners had 3 seats, and there were just 2 seats that were resident or popular elected.
Well, also, the fact is, it's been 30 or 40 years since we started all this. And I think at that time, I think we all had concern, because I talked to most of you people about it, that we weren't getting a fair shake because of Grieshaber and his blonde-haired lady. And I think it's time we put a stop to that. We are here in America. We waited 30 or 40 years to do this, to help get it developed. The original investors are gone. There's none of that left. I think we should go back to originally a way we vote here in America. Let the county run the election. We don't have to be involved in that and worry about how many people are participating. And let them run the election, and we can be sure to be fair and well run. I just don't see where we need to carry on with this landowners election as it is anymore. Let's just do that. I realize there might be some objections on the Canadian side, but you can't keep a vote in a country you're not a citizen of. They did this here for a while. 30 or 40 years is enough. Let's just eliminate it, get 5 seats, and move on from there, and this will be a thing of the past. Thank you.
Yeah, we should remind everybody that even though we're talking about a popular elected system, you still have to be a landowner to vote in Sun and Lake. You meet all the other requirements proposed by Highlands County, but we don't have either system. We do not have
I would hope that we would, when you rent a place, I'm sure that you pay for the taxes and stuff in that place. But a renter can't even vote. But he's paying the money for this district. I wouldn't mind seeing that changes, so it's like in any other election. But even a better one, even it would be better to have this set up and not have any landowners meetings anymore and all the stuff that goes along with that. Let's just do it, and later on, if we need to modify it any to get other people in here, we can, like renters and things.
Okay, good. Thank you, Bill.
Thank you.
Roger Leggett, resident. I've got 2 comments. One, getting back kind of what Mr. Jackson said. We're a unique government entity, and I don't think we want to annihilate our Canadian residents that much. They still should have a voice in what goes on a little bit in this district, because they were a big part of it. Secondly, going back to Mr. Norcroft's suggestion, which is a good one, but you're going to have to look at more than one avenue maybe on this poll to gather information. I'm registered independent, so I won't be here next week. But I'll guarantee you I'll vote as much as anybody in here, if not more. Because I'm a veteran and I believe in it and I fought for it. I don't know stupid. But anyway, you might want to look at different avenues other than just one way to gather your information from this poll. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom Costy, resident and former member of the committee to look into the landowner election, and that which got us to the point where we got a 3rd popularly elected seat, which was a fight that went on for 6 or 8 years before it happened. Sun and Lake is unique among the populated areas in Highlands County. It's not like Avon Park. It's not like Sebring. It's not like Lake Placid. Sun and Lake was built originally as a recreational community registered with the federal government to sell recreational properties and amenities throughout the country. Not only throughout the country, but throughout the world, really. A great many Canadians came here and were responsible for building Sun and Lake to what it is today. And not just Canadians, but others from Europe as well. Today, of the 3,000 or so residences that we have in Sun and Lake, fewer than half of them are owned by Highlands County registered voters. More than half are owned by either investors who bought them as rental units in order to be able to sell them to prospective future property owners that come here for golf or for whatever the recreational amenities are in Highlands County. And we are the premier golf location in Highlands County, as long as we keep it that way. But it's golf primarily that built Sun and Lake. And if we lose that attraction through ignoring a big segment of those, taking away the vote of a big segment of those that were here to build this community, we stand to lose big time. Our property values are all based on the fact that we have been, over the years, able to attract golfers to Sun and Lake. And that's what's kept the property values of residences in Sun and Lake Special Improvement District higher than those right in the surrounding area. You can find countless homes with the same description, same age, that are built very similarly to those built here in Sun and Lake. But the valuation from the tax assessor's office is considerably higher in Sun and Lakes because of what we have here, our recreational amenities. We're talking about taking away the vote of over half of the landowners in Sun and Lake if we upset the apple cart from what it is today. The popularly elected seats exceed those that are landowner seats now. So that the NRPI situation cannot happen again. Popular resident voters in Highlands County still can vote for all 5 seats on the board. The snowbirds, the Canadians, the non-resident voters, the landowners who account for more than half of the revenue that comes into Sun and Lake, they can only vote for 2. They can't take over the board like NRPI did in the past. So as far as I'm concerned, we achieved something that the formulas did not support when we got the 3rd popularly elected seat approved by the county. I think we might receive some objection to the county at this early stage when this has only been in effect for a couple of years now where we've had this 3rd seat. I think that they would wonder why we're coming back when they've already given us more than the formulas in the state statute would really support. Thank you.
Well, I got a question. This is kind of off the wall. Could a popular elected seat or a popular elected seat in Sun and Lake allow anyone that's a freeholder to vote? I mean, if we're not following urban density requirements, if we're not following, because we've changed the way we vote, which addresses the questions of everybody, is there any way that we could structure our voting, and if we changed everything to popular, if you were a freeholder, property freeholder, you're allowed to vote, whether you were an American, Canadian, Puerto Rican. I'd like for somebody to...
I don't think legally that would be possible.
Why?
It is possible now under this situation, but I don't know how you structure it that way. David, do you have any comments on that?
I can do some research and see if it's possible. Logistically, it may just be your fault part. Getting ballots out, and it'd almost be like an absentee ballot.
Well, we do it when we do landowning. I mean, they vote in that, and they can electronically vote, so on and so forth.
Well, if I understand what you're saying, you're talking about going back to 5 landowner seats. If anybody that's a landowner can vote in any one of those elections, we're back to where we started 40 years ago. Isn't that what you're proposing?
You got one vote. If you're a freeholder, you got one vote in a popular election. You don't have 50 because you own 50 pieces of property. You've got one vote, which takes into consideration what Mr. Jackson was saying or what Berger was saying. Everybody gets their vote. But what we're proposing, what you're proposing is,
I'm not proposing anything.
No,
I put it out. No, let me make that clear. I put it out here because there was a number of people that have come to different members of the board to do this. I don't have a dog in this fight. I don't care what we decide. But I think it should be out there, and I think that people should have a chance to express the preference. No more, no less.
That's what we're discussing, Dick. Don't get upset at me.
Well, I'm getting upset.
Well, it may be, but everybody's got a concern about losing their vote because we're doing it in a popular election. And the only thing I said was, can we check and see if we can have a popular elected vote, and if you're a freeholder, you can vote. That's the only thing I checked. I'm asking about it.
Okay, well, one of the reasons it's out at the present time is I wanted this to get out to the community before our part-time residents did go home. And we have March, and people start going home in April, quite a few. So we'll miss that, and I feel that they should have a full opportunity to respond to this. So what do you want to do? Delay it?
No, I think it's a good idea, but as far as if we transition to all 5 popular seats, which I'm always been in favor of, the people that are not residents of the United States could not vote. What I'm saying is, let's look and see if we can structure it so that they have a vote if they're freeholders.
Well,
that's the only thing I'm asking.
Well, supervisor's election then would not be able to run our election unless on a contract basis. Because that would be a departure from what they do for us in the popular elections.
They charge us anyway, don't they, Tanya?
Not in the popular.
What was the question? I'm sorry.
Supervisor election charge us for running an election?
They would charge us, yes, but they didn't have to this year. We didn't have an election.
No, but they don't charge us for running a popular election because it's in concert with the normal election process.
That's correct, yes.
Okay, the only way we get a charge is if they ran the landowner election.
Yes, correct.
That's one of the talking points about standardizing the election process.
You know, everybody keeps talking about the Canadians, but we also have a lot of people from New York and Pennsylvania and Ohio and Michigan that come down here that have homes, and they come down for 2 months, 3 months, and go back, and then come back down again. So we got to be careful that we don't leave them out. Well,
we're not leaving them out. We haven't left them out before. They can.
Well,
if they're a
not
freeholder,
residents.
It doesn't make any difference. You have to be a freeholder.
They're landowners, but they're part of the landowner's election, and they're residents. They own land here, but they're not registered Highlands County voters. That's the difference.
Well, keep in mind, too, and I'm just throwing this out, the last 3 landowner elections that we've had, we haven't even had a contest.
I know.
We have a landowner meeting. We have 5 or 6 people at the landowner meeting. So if we don't have enough interest in that, at least in the popular elections, they're on the same cycle as our normal electoral process. And we do get participation. Dick, you had a... Dick?
Dick Diott. There's no doubt which way this referendum is that you want to put out is going to go. And I don't know why you would do anything that's going to make Sun and Lakes less attractive to outsiders. rather than do things that is going to make it more attractive. Why take away something that's working? And it's working the way you always wanted it to work. My utility bill comes out of my bank account, and that's been happening for 31 years. I don't get a hard copy. So I'm sure there are other people like me that don't even come down here, not, people that own land that will never vote in this thing. So there's no doubt which way it's going to go. And I don't understand why you would even consider doing something that's going to at least appear to take something away rather than add to the attractiveness of Sun and Lake. It's just wrong.
Thank you. Anybody else? Now you've had your say, Bill. Well, guys, what do you want to do?
I personally would like to see it stay the way it is for another year or possibly two, and then revisit the thing. I understand that we're not getting the turnout for the landowners. Is it our fault that we don't get enough stuff to them, or is it nobody wants to run? There's not much incentive for us this guy.
Considering what's happened in the last year, yeah, that would be a downer to run. Well, do we want to go ahead and get an idea, a straw vote, or do we want to just withdraw it? Up to you guys.
Straw vote would be fine with me. I mean,
a straw vote can't hurt us.
But I would still like an opinion, David, as to whether we could structure our own election, popular election, the way I just described it. That way, anybody that owns property here can vote in a popular election and has one vote. That would solve all the problems.
I'd like to see it still have the boxes up there at the district office. Dave can check out what he's doing, and we can still at least get this going. I don't know if it's going to change many minds, but I'd like to hear what the public, those that are interested will come up and vote. And I'd like to hear their opinion.
I kind of go along with Larry White. I think we ought to not upset the apple cart for a couple of years and see what happens.
Rick, even after the straw vote, we don't have to do anything.
I agree. Huh?
Larry, they're not hearing you yet.
The mic's not up to...
I said
can you hear me now? Yeah.
Okay, I said even after the straw vote, we don't absolutely have to do anything, but the straw vote will tell us what the locals here want. And it's like Dick Piott said, it's going to be a one-sided vote.
Well, we're assuming a lot in that area, but I guess a sense that, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, that we go ahead and just see what preference is and follow what Dave's suggestion is as far as seeing what that'll work. And again, especially, we're not bound by any particular thing, but at least we'll have some kind of a preference. Tanya, I don't know if a website situation will work, because I think as Rick has said, we have renters and no control and so forth. You want to limit it to just the sheets at the office?
I'd like to discuss it further, but I feel like we need to reach out to landowners in a way and not just homeowners. The website, what you'd have to do is we'd have a form on the website. You have to sign it, and then we can prove whether or not you're a landowner here in the district. I mean,
okay, if that'll work, that'll be fine. But the important thing to me is that we do it at a time when we have all of our part-time, or at least most of our part-time residents here, so they can participate. Do we still do that and get it out?
Well, we would have sign-in sheets at the office.
But I mean, can we get this out to the public this month?
Yes.
We can always email everybody.
just a few people here at the meeting, so we could make that argument. I mean, I thought this is the way a democracy worked, that you put something on the table and people say yay or nay on it. Isn't that what they do in Canada, Dick? I mean, where does community participation come in? This is my whole argument, and I don't have a dog in this fight one way or the other. I stress that. But where the hell do we run this government if you got 5 people up here do what they damn well please and don't listen to the people that elected them? And all I'm putting on the table is a chance for people to express an opinion. Is that so bad? All right. But very briefly, step up there, state your name. Briefly.
Bill Jackson. I asked to counter what Mr. Costi said. He said I had already spoken, and I couldn't do that. And yet, someone else has already been to this microphone, spoke up, and you allowed it to go on. I just think that's, I want you to think about that.
Okay, thank you for that.
It's on?
Yeah.
Okay. Charlie Shields, President. My comment is this. If we're going to have a straw vote, and then we're going to consider that vote, is it representative of the folks in the whole district? Or will it be done like the Goff side, where we voted, we had a little sheet, and we all voted a straw vote on what we wanted to sign, but that wasn't good enough. It wasn't a representative sample, right?
Charlie, if I remember correctly, the most votes were the ones that got a particular sign design picked. Because I think the most votes were option number 2. I liked option number 1, but we ended up with option number 2, and I think part of the decision making was the votes that we got there at the club.
Well, I disagree, and I certainly think that it wasn't a representative sample.
Well, it never seems to be, but thanks. I'm looking at you guys, so yeah, okay. Let's proceed on that basis. Make sure everybody understands it's non-binding. Anything else? Okay. No add-on items?
None.
No petitions and communications?
No.
We have staff reports, community services. Tennille?
Good morning. Tennille Drury-Smith, Community Services Director. I just wanted to take a few moments this morning to go over some key features of our new website. And some of you may have had a chance to explore and have discovered things, but I just want to take some time to point out some things that you may not have come across that are going to be pretty beneficial to us, and even doing this straw vote, I think will help immensely. The first thing, when you get to the home page, there are buttons towards the bottom. You'll see the buttons there towards the bottom, and those are some items that we thought were probably going to be some of the most popular things that people would be looking for when they went to the website. We can certainly change these. We can make changes to these. But there's links to the golf course, the island view, the board information, paying your bill, and then special events. So those are just a few of the key things that they can do straight from the home page. Scrolling down, we're turning off the lights. Okay. Scrolling down further, we have a few tabs down here where they have a news flash. That is going to have the most current e-blast. We'll upload that weekly when we send the e-blast out. And it'll also have the newsletter. There'll be a newsletter tab. And you can see if you scroll over to the calendar side that it lists the calendar of everything that's going on. This will encompass board meetings, community center events, special events. So you can click on dates, and you can actually click in there and view all of, view everything month to month. So that's another key feature. Scrolling back up to the little starburst on the to the left. This is where you can actually create an account, and to do anything online as far as subscribing to different things, you have to create an account, and it's as simple as putting in your email address, and they'll ask you a few questions. It's very, very easy. Also on the starburst here, there is a link to a document center, which houses all of the documents that we have on this website. So it's a central location that you can go into and explore. All of the documents that are within this document center are linked to other places within the website, but this is just a central location if you just want to go straight and look at, say if there's archives in there for meeting minutes from 2000 to the current. You can go in there and look at the different years. It'll pull up all the meeting minutes.
How about the audio? Where is that?
We'll get to that. That's gonna. We'll go down a couple more points. As far as notifications, if you click on notifications, this is where you can subscribe to different things. Like when we upload an agenda, we can, if you subscribe to get the agenda board meeting minutes, then when we upload them, we hit a send now button, and that will send the notification that we've uploaded a new agenda or meeting minutes, whatever we've uploaded into that particular field. Will go out to everyone who has subscribed to those, so you'll get instant access and notification that they're uploaded. That's one thing. You can also subscribe to the newsletter. You can subscribe to special events. There's a bunch of different options. Although our mobile app is not available just yet, it will be within the next couple of weeks. There's also ability for you to get the messages on your cell phone as well. So when that option becomes available, you can go and subscribe to get those notifications alerted on your cell phone. And so you can get them in your email and your cell phone. So that's another option. And just to make a point, whenever you do subscribe to something, you will have to go in. It'll prompt you you'll get a notification through your email that you do have to click, yes, I subscribe. You'll have to click the link, and that will give us automatic access to sending out notifications. If you do not click on that link until you do so, you will not get the subscription notices. Moving on to agenda and meeting minutes. This particular field, when it comes up, there we go. It's going to have from the most current to the oldest. And you'll see when you go in that on the right-hand side, there's tabs for the different years. I believe through there, I can't see, but I think it goes to 2011. That's listed on here. At the top, there is an archive center that you can click on, and that's where all the meeting minutes from 2000 to 2010 will be housed.
Where is that? Because I was on there the other day trying to find it using a calendar.
You see where it says Agenda Center at the top right there in that paragraph? Okay. In that paragraph, there's a link to the Archive Center as well. Okay? Now, all of any audio, any minutes, any agendas that were on the previous website got automatically uploaded to this website. So you'll see in these columns here where there's a green check that says minutes have been uploaded, and then there's audio with you can see the little kind of like a megaphone looking thing that you click on that, and that will bring you to the audio for that meeting. And then if you click on the download tab, this is where the actual agenda is located, and there's links within the agenda to all the documents. You can also choose, if you want to just go ahead and print off the entire packet, there's a packet option as well where you can click on that, and it will pull up everything in the order from the agenda to what's included into the packet. So it's a great way to organize. Just have to kind of navigate through, and if you have any problems finding something, please don't hesitate to call me, because I'll be happy to instruct how the flow and where everything is. There's a How Do I tab, and we're just going over a few key features. There's within the How Do I tab, there's a Fix It section, and people can go in here and you can report a street light out. We've put a link to Duke Energy so that they can go in immediately and report a street light out if they want to. There's ability for them to submit code enforcement problems. Those emails will go straight to Bob and Philip. We have 2 emails on those. And then just general, you can submit general inquiries or general problems. If there's a pothole or anything of that nature, this is where you would go to submit problems. If you don't want to call in, then we get a form submission through email, and then we do what we can to take care of it. The search engine. This was probably one of the best features, in my opinion, of this, because you can virtually type in anything you want, and it should search and bring up everything that, as long as those keywords are in that document, whether it be in meeting minutes or a form, everything that contains, like Jonathan just typed in pool, so everything that we've discussed, or if there's a form for membership, will come up in this section. So that I know the other day someone asked me to look up something for Miranda Homes, and we clicked in Miranda Homes, or even just Miranda, and everything, they found immediately what they were looking for. So that's a great feature. On the utilities page, and this will probably help some of the discussion as far as the form capabilities we have. Okay, at the bottom here you'll see that there's ability for people to submit electronically a turn-off request, a turn-on request, and we do require them to upload specific documents for turn-on. Just as they were coming into the front office, they have to submit the appropriate documents, and they cannot basically submit the form until those documents are uploaded. And of course, if there are issues, we'll call them and let them know, but this alleviates them from even having to come into the office at all. If it's a new water turn-on. There's also, like there would be on their application, there's a disclaimer, the same disclaimer that would be on their application saying, by signing this, you're agreeing to these terms and conditions. An electronic signature on these forms is just as good if you have a disclaimer as if you had a signature in person. So that's, we can create any kind of form like this. With different fields. So I know that when we look at doing the straw poll, that this is something we could definitely utilize, and we would get the submission immediately. I think that's going to wrap up some of our key features. And if anyone has any questions.
Well, I was particularly glad to see Go Green up there on that website. So.
We're trying to promote people to do e-billing and
what about the property owner's file and the rentals and so forth?
That's something that I've been talking with Civic Plus, and they do have a program. And I know that Tina and I have had several discussions about implementing. The problem is it's going to be the same type situation that we had before, where we have no control over. We have more control over the length of time people can choose. Like if we wanted to charge them a fee, there's a 3-month fee, a 6-month fee, a 12-month fee to upload something. But we have no control over, again, when something gets sold or status changes.
Maybe you misunderstand. On our other website, you had a section where you could go to check out, if you wanted to rent for a month or more in the winter in Sun Lake, go and see what's available.
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like we had a lot of issues on our old website where people would because we have no control over the accounts that are set up on that. And even with this new website, we really wouldn't have much control over. So what would happen is people would leave something up there and forget about it, or whatever the case may be. And we had all these properties on this website that we have no control over. People would call in and say, "Hey, just to let you know, we called on this property and it was sold 2 years ago." And that's a major issue in our minds. And we've been trying to figure out a solution. And yes, charging people may make more of an ownership out of it, or limiting the number. If we only did 3 months per se, if we didn't even have a 6 or 12 month option, if we charge them $15, to upload their property. And I know that realtors are huge. They're the biggest part of who uses this, because I've been getting the phone calls asking when we're putting it back up. So there's a lot of issues to be worked out there. We definitely don't want to be listing all these properties on our website that don't exist or aren't there anymore when we have no control over it. So.
But you are still going to try to see if you can't get a solution on
Yes,
it.
we are. Tammy and I are working to see what's going to be the best solution to the problem. But that feature is there. It's here. It's just hidden. You can't see it at the moment, but it's ready to go when we're ready to implement a program.
Good. So. Is that it? Bill, please. Is that it?
Yes, that's it.
Bill, you had a question? Mark, come on up, please. Jonathan Whites, please.
Mark Camp, President. Great job. There are some issues like that. I don't know who to talk to about it. Should I come to you? Because across multiple platforms, for whatever reason, it's not working. That's the base system. So we're fine. And an iOS-based system is bad. But the bottom line is, I have a question. I don't know who to address it to. I pay a lot of things online. I can pay for this. That's the future. And I noticed when I was going to pay my bill, which I always pay electronically, they're going to charge you $2.95 for an electronic check. Now, I understand that credit cards incur an expense, but I didn't realize electronic checks incur an expense. So
Are you talking about our situation
water
here?
bill, yeah. So I automatically, like Dick talked about paying his bill directly, I've always paid mine directly, automatically. And now all of a sudden I think, unless I'm wrong, that's what we charge to put in there? Okay, well maybe I should say, but I've never been charged for electronic.
We would look into it. Yeah, Point and Pay is the name of the company we use. If you automatically draft your water bill from your bank account, there is no charge. But if you go and pay your water bill online, that is a charge that the company charges. We don't see those type of fees.
No.
An electronic check.
My bank to the district.
We're going to look into that. We'll look into that.
We'll look into it as to whether we're charging or not charging.
I don't know the answer to your question. You're asking why are you being charged. I don't know. We can look into that.
Correct.
Yeah.
I mean, this $40 bill, why would you charge them $2?
No, my bank, I do it from my bank directly with this and they don't charge anything.
That's my point. That's what I'm saying. But on the website, it says there is a fee charge.
That is a little different than, because on here we are using the third-party Point and Pay system, and there is, whenever you do make any kind of payment from the website, there is a fee to do so.
Good. Thanks, Neil.
Thank you.
Wait. Okay.
No, you have to set up a new one. Yes, you do.
Tom Costy, resident. We had a conversation a week or so ago about the audio files, and you indicated that there was a limit to how much we could have, that we could retain, and that we would be wiping off the older audio files on a periodic basis when they become a certain age.
We were looking at what our options would be when we approached the limit to what our website allowed.
So there is a limit, and you indicated that this company said that keeping that kind of information is unusual for municipalities. Okay, and again, I mentioned that at Highlands County, they've actually got video files online that go back all the way to the point in time when they first started putting video files up. And their documentation goes back to 1992. They pay roughly an $8,000 annual fee for management of their website, where all that stuff is kept. What's our annual cost for?
Going off the top of my head, I believe after the initial, I want to say it's $5,000, it's around $5,000 range.
But are we approaching the limit of what we can hold with what you put on so far?
We're at almost 14 gigabytes, and our limit is 20. So there is some space still, but it's going to, obviously the audio files take up a lot of space on the website, but there will be a point where we will reach that max.
What David, we have a legal requirement on retention of the audio files?
I think that, like Taylor was telling me, I believe that we still have them here, and they're still available. They haven't been deleted permanently. They're just not available on the website.
But I'm saying, are we legally required to keep these for a certain period of time, aren't we?
Oh, yes. But I'm unaware of anything that would be more than 7 to 10 years. I can check the...
Be interesting to know.
Just so you know, if you go on the county website, they keep agenda and minutes going way back to the early 90s. If you go into the table that shows access to the videos, you bring up one of those videos, the agenda comes up with it. And you can actually do word searches through those agenda to find what date a particular item was discussed in an audio file or in the video file. But here, once we wipe those audio files out, we lose access. The only way we could go back is to come over to Town Hall, sit down at a computer, and listen to hours and hours of audio, because there's no other link to try to find them. You have to go in and listen to whoever spoke about what. I assume that if we did that, we'd have to pay a fee to the district to have somebody sit there and watch us, or...
Tom,
what do you think about that?
Tom, we would just download it onto a CD or a jump drive, and you can take it home with us.
But we wouldn't know what date to ask for without listening, because there's no word search in an audio file. You follow what I'm saying?
You would have to request a specific audio file.
I understand,
okay.
And that would require hours of sitting and listening to audio files until you heard what you were looking for. At the county, you can do it in a keyword search through an agenda document, and then bring up that date from the document. You follow what I'm saying?
Neil, didn't you just say that you had a search engine that
yes,
that
right.
does the same thing?
Right at the top of the screen right here, it says search, and you can type in any keyword, and you can find the meeting minutes that whatever you're looking for, and which will give the date and then the audio file.
You recall the discussions that we've had about detailed minutes versus just topical minutes. If you read some of the minutes from back in the early 2000 years, it simply said that the public spoke. It doesn't say what they spoke about. Those minutes are very, very brief. For a period of about 3 or 4 years, up until about a year and a half ago, we were getting detailed minutes. But we've decided, the board decided, to abbreviate those minutes to the point where we're now getting about a third of the typed matter that we had for a period of 3 or 4 years back in around 2010 through 2013, 2014. But that's just comments. I just think it's something we should keep in mind.
Want to wrap it up, please, Tom?
Okay, it's wrapped up. Thank you.
Okay, good deal.
I'm done. Any other questions? If no one has any other questions, I'm done.
Good report. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Okay, we have General Counsel report.
Yes, sir. Mr. Lamoza was here last week. He had went over the litigation that was supposed to be for us. At that time, there was threatened litigation.
You need to speak up, please.
There was threatened litigation from Greg Griffin. The district was, in fact, served with a lawsuit this past Friday for Mr. Griffin. PRM is covering the defense, and they have hired Alan Norton of Blue, being headed by Brian Koji. We've had some discussions with Mr. Koji, and he is moving forward with our defense, and we'll be filing a response by a little bit before the end of the month.
That's not all of it, right? 4 counts.
3 counts, technically. There's a count for Whistleblower Act, First Amendment claim, which included Supervisors Miller and Halbig, and then a FMLA interference claim.
Anything else? Okay, General Manager's report.
Candy Kennedy, General Manager. I'd like to give a brief update on some of our projects going on in the district. Don Bell Signs, their landscaping contractor will finish the landscaping and the lighting for the new clubhouse sign and the north entrance sign next week. Unfortunately, they were here working last week, and of course the tree farm that they get their palm trees from, the loader at the tree farm broke down, and there was no way to load the palm trees. So that's why they have to come in next week. They had to redo their entire schedule based on that equipment failure. So they will be here next week. That's the reason for the delay in the finishing of the landscaping.
Do you ever get the feeling that the sign situation is going the way of the tennis courts?
It's been one thing after another, yes, sir.
Okay. What about the new location for the Sun Lake Boulevard sign?
I sent an email out yesterday for that project to let you know where we stand. And once Duke Energy buries that power line, it's a small feeder line that runs into the meter for the Florida Hospital sign. Once that is buried, we should be able to move forward. It could be up to 5 weeks, but it could be sooner. But at this point, I don't have a confirmation of price or time.
Yeah. Sometime in our lifetime, anyway.
Yes. The Unit 5 drainage project, we are going to advertise for this for next week, and we're going to put it out for bid for the Unit 5. So that's, remember we've discussed, we have some property owners that have driveways to the point that do need to be replaced, as well as the culvert, and we'll keep you informed.
Do we have a firm protocol on the breakdown between our costs and their costs?
Once we receive the bids from the contractor, we will have a firm breakdown.
So if I remember correctly, you had sent letters to, I believe, 7?
We estimated about $2,000. Yes, 7 homeowners.
Are you satisfied with all the responses are in?
No, we are not to that point yet. I will continue another 4-year term on the Recreation and Parks Advisory Committee for Highlands County. And Tennille, Gary Smith will be the alternative representative on this committee. Funding is allocated for numerous projects, and the district has an opportunity for funding, as well as other governments within the county. So I'm going to continue that representation. After initial budget discussions are complete this year, the district will be working on an emergency operations procedural manual and checklist. We currently do not have any type of document, so we'll be working towards getting that procedure manual together. Billy Casper has had an internal audit in January 2016, and they scored an original 88% while the auditor was on site with a final score of 99.5%. And congratulations to Billy Casper for a job well done on their internal audit.
Very good.
And lastly, the district's audit will be presented to you at the next meeting by McDermott, Davis & Company. That'll be April 8th.
Okay. Couple questions. We're moving toward a neighborhood forum for the Miranda home situation. Do we have a schedule on that?
At the next meeting, I'll propose maybe a date to the board, and if the board agrees with the date and time, we will set a meeting date for that community.
Okay, and are we in a position now, with all this other stuff that's going on, to start thinking about our updated policy manual?
We are close. I have notes written all through the manual right now, so that's as far as I've gotten. As far as bringing a draft to you, it won't be just yet.
Okay.
We now that we.
Well, I guess what I'm saying, any supervisors or anybody else connected with this that has options or suggestions.
Bring them to me. You can bring them to me. Yes, sir.
Doing that
absolutely.
Now. Okay. That is an important document.
It is, and I have a working draft with some changes. So if you have any changes, please feel free to bring those directly to me. And one more thing I wanted to mention, C.B. Goldsmith, architect firm out of Clearwater, we do have an appointment with them on April 5th to review our facilities.
But we are moving ahead now with replacing those trusses.
Yes, we are.
Softball.
Yes.
Good. Thank you. Unfinished business. Do you have none?
None.
New business?
None.
Okay. Now we have the committee report to the Golf Advisory Committee. And Supervisor White, you're up.
First of all, I'd like to thank the members of the Golf Advisory Committee, Mr. Bill Norcross, Larry Devine, Sharon Andrews, and about 6 members of the audience participated in both of the meetings. I'd like to thank you for your efforts. Special thanks to Sister Hartman, 56 our minutes. I think if I remember right, the second day at work, so she knew nobody. She had no reporter to take the minutes, and she did a good job. Our first meeting was held February the 9th, advertised and held. The members of the golf committee were there, along with 6 or 8 people in the audience. At the sunshine laws, kind of set up the perimeters of what we were going to try to accomplish. The dates of the 3 and 5 month and 1 month membership, and anything that we wanted to adjust in the price. It was pretty evident to begin with that everybody there wanted, or the majority there, I should say, wanted the 1st and the 15th as starting date. Not anything in between, but the 1st of any month and the 15th. And any month was pretty much decided because it's only going to really take place during the golfing season from, say, November until April. So anytime they would start the 1st and the 15th, we talked a little bit about the pricing, and I asked them to take the pricing idea home, to come up with a plan for date and the pricing for next meeting, and each one of them had an individual idea, and then we'd see if we could combine. After that first meeting, I went in and talked to Jim Kirchburn a little while, and I wanted to make sure he was comfortable with the sliding date, not the sliding date, but the dates of the 1st of November, the 15th of November, as well as the 1st of December, the 15th, and possibly even the 1st and the 15th of January. I don't think that was for January going to come into effect a lot, but he assured me that he had an idea and that his people could handle it, and he was very pleased. The second meeting was held on the 16th of February, and we later. They all come in still wanting the 1st and the 15th, and with no definite starting month. They had all raised 3 and the 5 months slightly, a lot, very slightly. We finally come to an agreement of raising the 5-month membership, which was $19.49. Now this is before taxes, to $21.10. This was not a big raise, about a $60 raise. No, $160 raise. The 3 months was raised from $14.97 to $16.20. One of the things that come out of the meeting is we pretty much decided to drop the 1-month membership and replace it with a 10, and possibly even a 20 and a 30 Play Advantage card. There's only 10 members in this 1-month membership, and a lot of those are playing 5 and 6 times a year. We thought we could control it a lot better by going to an incentive. We want to drop the $5 fee for a club member to borrow a cart, and the conditions there is they have a current trail fee and they own their own car. So this would just be a temporary use of the cart while theirs is broke down, and maybe the wife is using it that particular day. On the back of the first report that this gentleman got was a very small spreadsheet. All the spreadsheet does is kind of show you how these prices break out. And in that, about 3/4 of the way over, I had a column called maintenance. I'm sure but none of you really know what maintenance was. It was just something that we talked about. And the reason for the maintenance column and what it includes is if you own a golf cart, there's expenses for it. Maintenance, in this particular case, covers your insurance that you have to have in the golf cart. It covers the wear and tear of new batteries, new tires, so on and so forth. And it covers depreciation. For a single, we used the maintenance figure of $750. For a family, we used it $1,000. I think it actually comes up more than that. If you figure a golf cart costs last 6 years, you're going to put a set of batteries in it. You're probably going to put a set of tires on it. You're going to have a couple of $300 just to incidentals to take it back up to the dealership to get it worked on, and it's going to cost you $5,000 to break it. Figures I think they use pretty reasonably. When you figure what it actually costs to play around a golf, single member, 15 rounds a month over the 12-month period, figures $22.39. For a family, playing 15 rounds, and that would be actually 30 rounds a month. It costs $15 to $34. A 5-month membership with 15 rounds at the new price would cost $30.10 per round. And that's for 15 rounds. 3-month play, 15 rounds, the new prices would cost $36.14. It's still considerably cheaper than just going off the street and playing, but it is slightly higher than it was. The advisory committee tried to just adjust the plan for us and not to change the base program. These are simply recommendations from years ago. Two of the things that were brought up at the meeting, one we did not address. One was about a 6-month membership. The other was brought up about a 5-month over 80. I'd be glad to answer any questions you have on it. Try my best.
Well, I understand this maintenance line item, but on the 5-month and the 3-month, you have no factor in there. if a 5-month member uses his own cart, he still has to buy insurance and provide proof of insurance and so on and so forth, right?
If he uses his own cart. Now, most of the 5-month members, they don't have to use their own cart. That's the reason we put it in to make it easy. Because as a 5-month or a 3-month member, you are given a cart. You don't have to own it.
I wasn't in favor of choosing a membership to start with, and we put it in play, but I just don't think it's going to be controlled. You even said it in the minutes that they're having a hard time controlling it now. If you make this thing variable and spread out all over the whole year, once they get that money, they're not going to control it.
Okay, what Jim told me, I think he had a very good idea. And as soon as the first meeting was over, I went to Jim. He's bound to talk probably about it. He said, what he had in mind was John Doe signs up for a 3-month or a 5-month membership. Okay? The next newsletter that comes out in the email, it will state that John Doe joined on the 5 or 3-month membership on such and such a date, and his membership expires. He also went on to say that in addition to that, the pro shop and the starter will have a sheet every month of whose membership is going to expire in the next, at least in the next 30 days. So both of them are out there for both of them. I don't think we have a big problem with cheating because most of the people here are pretty doggone honest. If they play another day or two, they know. But I really don't think we're going to have a major problem with it. Maybe I'm all wrong, but I don't think we will, and Jim did.
You give me a detailed list of how we're going to control it before I agree to it, because I don't think it's going to be controlled. And we've had problems in the past. We've had backdoor, and like Jim mentioned in the meeting about backdoor deals and stuff. And that's a management problem. Back deals, just make the penalty for doing it so severe they're not going to do it. Very simple. The variable dates we're starting to stop in. I mean, my free cash flow is better in July than it is in October. The full-time members don't have any option. I mean, they either join in October and pay, or they don't get. They're not allowed to pay at any time. It's just open-ended stupid. We need to clearly define controls, and they need to be written and agreed upon. You're a member, you're a member. If you're not a member, you're not a member. That was simple. Now it's all convoluted, and people are taking advantage of it. They're taking advantage of it today, as we speak. And nobody's controlling it, nobody's looking for it, nobody cares, I guess. Once you got the money, that's it.
Like I said, these are just strictly recommendations of the entire board and the audit association district. Jim, can you come up? I noticed that some of the golf carts
I'm actually not aware of the exact policy.
Because I've looked at those stickers
say expiration date, authentication code.
Jim, do you have?
Control. There one of them had the expiration date of April 30th, and the back door deals were spread out all over the place, and now they're going to be spread out all over the place even more. I mean, we'd have to put a firm expiration date on it for somebody to look at it and then find it.
Jim, do you have any comments on Supervisor Halbert's concerns about control?
First, I guess for the record, Jim Firstborn, General Manager, Tunnel Lake Golf Club, Village Casper Golf Company. Do we have any specific knowledge of any violations of the 3 and 5 months now, or do we have someone who's violated it, or is this just, I guess, speculation or hearsay?
Well, Jim, I'm not going to stand here and beat on this drum anymore because I've already beat on it individually and I've gotten nowhere. So.
Well, I haven't been given one example of one person who played in a period of time that they didn't pay for. So.
Well, we'll leave it at that for the time being. Larry, just so we're clear, you've got on this chart, you've got the price of the different memberships, which is a fixed amount. Then you take the whole line item over there and you come to the $1,000 for maintenance. That varies from person to person, and that's it. Somebody that wasn't familiar with this could read it that, if you're going to play a family membership, it's $500. That's not your intent, obviously.
The only reason I run that metric up there is to give you an idea of what it costs to use it. It won't vary very far from $1,000 a year for any of the family members to use your own golf course. It sounds high when you first think about it. When you think about trading golf course, like your automobile. Come out there in 2 weeks and really think it out. I guarantee you, it helps if you do that figure right now. As well as two trade stores, and do it in a heartbeat.
The other question I had was the price for these 15 rounds per month and so forth. In all of the formulas and the equations, are we making sure that our residents are getting the best price?
The residents, I didn't try to figure what it cost to use the residents are walking on. I can plug that into now, one of the things you'll notice on that spreadsheet, the next column over is 20 rounds per month, and as you go up to 30 and so on, because some people play, it really teaches things up a lot. The more you play, the deeper you go.
Okay, I just go back to where I think it was last year, maybe the year before, we made a commitment that all the prices for residents versus off the street and so forth, residents would have the lowest rate.
And I think that's true. I think the residence rate is like 30.
Right now, the residence rate is $40, and the public rate is $55 for standard play.
That's exactly what Larry was saying earlier about a 10 or 20 play card or 30 play card. If you put that into effect, whatever that charge is, then the residents get that same. They have a responsibility of doing the same thing for the residents.
One of the things that was brought up, John ought to make it real clear, is that part of the people that come down that just want to buy a 1 month membership are here to pay a lot of it. First one on 25, maybe 30 down. Maybe that. So it's very, very deep. It's very, very, very economic. As much people that do it for us, it's great. And by going to this play card, yeah, just
do we hear from the public on this? If anybody's interested? Yes, you might.
Mark Winslow, resident. I don't like family is husband and wife, and that's mainly what it is. Family is husband and wife, or very few cases that the entire family. I don't know. Not very many. It's not been that. The family membership has been husband and wife.
Tom Causey, resident and member of the full year membership, the Golf Club family membership. Has any data been accumulated now that we've had this part year membership for a couple of years? Has any data been collected comparing whether the person with the part year membership was formerly a full-time member? And was that adjustment made because as a certain percentage of the part year memberships were formerly full-time memberships and still would be, generating more income for the club than, and usually the analysis that's done by the member is how much is it costing me per round to play golf, and if they can save money by dropping back to a 5-month membership versus what it would be if they were formerly playing as a full time. You got to subtract that from what the attraction is to go into the part-time membership. What the trade-off? There's a trade-off there, and I just wonder. We've had this program for a couple of years now. Has any data been collected on that?
No, I checked it. Only using the book, the old books and the current list of seasonal members. 64% of the current seasonal members were at one time full members.
Okay, and
now whether or not they would have still been full members, I have no clue. All I know is at one time they were full members.
Well, the other thing is that a lot of the day rate players have been players for a long time, and they've been paying the higher fee because they come here during the months of January, February, March, when the day rate is at its peak. In the summertime, you can play golf for $18 and get a sleeve of golf balls and a sandwich included in the $18 along with your cart. So, I mean, there's a big trade-off there. So we don't, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we keep track of the day rate players, whether or not their residence is Sun Lake. That's something that was suggested several years back when we first started talking about this seasonal membership. I don't think we're collecting names and addresses of people that come in on a day rate as they come in to get a tee time. The other thing is that members are supposed to get tee times 3 weeks in advance. And I don't know if it's happening to everybody, but I know that there's a number of ladies whose tee time, they get informed on the day that they go over there to play. When they had a tee time reserved 3 weeks in advance, they get informed that that's not their tee time. They've been moved back. That is a fact, and I've heard a lot of complaining at home about that. What's the policy with regard to that? If a member makes a tee time 3 weeks in advance, is that solidified, or do they get moved around when an outside group comes in and asks for a couple of tee times altogether? How does that happen? There's a lot of consideration that should be given to this, and now that we've had the program in as far as the seasonal memberships in for a couple of years, I would think that we had accumulated some data.
Tom, I asked Jim a little while ago for that exact list of all the changes, and we're going through that now. I haven't put dollars to it, but I've been put dollars to it. But I did find that an awful lot of the change has occurred with some of our older members, myself included, where we had a family membership and one spouse, for one reason or another, had to drop out, and we did this and so forth. And some of those have gone from family for 5 months. And I think in about a week, we should have some dollars attached to see exactly where we are. But as Supervisor Halbig says, face value, you're still not sure of certain reasons because an awful lot of that is medical. And another, believe it or not, another sizable portion has gone from regular family membership to 80 or 85. So we have all these changes that are coming in and out. And it's going to be hard to sort everything out.
Somebody needs to keep track of all of those instances and record it and study it, accumulate that data as it takes place. And so far I haven't seen it. For instance, my cart's been on the I shouldn't say this. My cart has now been on the golf course for a year and a half without a sticker on it. Pardon me?
You have that in your back pocket?
we've got it at home. People know who I am, so they let me out there. We have no starters on the golf course normally during the weekend anymore. There's no starter out there for the shotgun. And by the way, it's chaos in the morning. If you haven't run a regular golf group in the morning for the shotgun, you don't realize what chaos there is. And I don't know how somebody standing behind the counter in the pro shop is going to keep track of who's playing, who's not playing. We have people show up 5 minutes. We have people show up as we're going out to the golf course to play. So I mean, it's a logistical real problem to keep track of that. Thank you.
Hey Tom, one of the things that I have, and I don't think they're ever writing this down or whatever. I have heard most of them behind the counter. One of the things that shows up in my spreadsheet shows up single membership. About a 50. 5 months. I think a lot of our 5 months, a lot of them that something changed, and now one of the ex-residents does not play golf. Instead of buying a single membership, they're buying private because it's much cheaper. And even if a new player, it's still cheaper. And that's part of the reason that's right.
The more options there are, the harder it will be to keep track of whether or not you're gaining or losing in the pro.
Maybe they'll remember whether they're full-time or seasonal. They have a membership card with a photo ID on it.
Somebody mentioned it. They probably make one of those like
All good questions. Anybody else?
Sergio Elliott, President. Just some comments. One, when you talk about people abusing, to me that's still wrong. You need an income control and that's sort of the Secondly, when you talk about the 5-month membership, you're unaware that both things are having to buy the 5-month membership. I didn't hear that.
It actually didn't address that in it. With the new price structure, it's more economic to have a family membership instead of this stuff.
You figure that single membership is $32 a year. You're not counting my pocket. I pay a self-tip. If you think that cost, you pay this over that.
Jackson, I'm a resident and also a non-golfer. I see all this stuff going around, and I think, well, don't we have a company who manages this golf course, Casper? Why is all this coming to you guys? Isn't it their responsibility to keep these records and all these things? All you need to get is the report. So I think we're looking at the wrong place on all this. I think you should have a quiet meeting with Casper, bring them forward, and see what they're doing. Because you're paying them money to do this, and you're sitting up here taking hours of time kicking this stuff around. That's their problem, not yours.
I hate to say it, but our time is cheaper than their time. Okay. A number of good questions came up and so forth. Is the board ready to make any kind of decision? More questions to answer? Well, we need to get down the road a bit. I mean, but there was some. But what about the questions that were raised today? Are they going to be addressed?
They should be when we get the budget done. I mean, this whole thing is, when we changed this before from full membership district, it's the same field. It's never going to be right. It's never going to be right. Because what all the eventually we got to eventually whether or not we're going to take the recommendation of the committee or not is I don't know if we're going to do that today.
Judging from what I've heard today, I don't think we should. I think there are additional issues that the committee should address, and I would suggest that the committee continue until you're satisfied that you've answered those questions, and then there can be specific input to the budget process. We'll have a couple of months for that.
Committee, I hear what you're saying. I don't think. I think most of the rest of the recommendations you could get would need to come. That's the company that has the figures that we to support it.
Certainly, a couple of the control issues fall right in Casper's lap. And Jim, you'll have to address those issues, because I've heard that before, and that needs to be resolved, because we do have an obligation to our members on that score. But there's other issues that are more open-ended. Who's going to address those issues? You want Casper to do that?
Part of that, I think, is that the rest of it, I think, for the thing that do that is to really get the budget done. One of the things that we tried to do is hold the thought for the time that we did this, we didn't really remember right. The stock market falling all through the 300 a day, the Canadian dollar way down, have come back a little bit. Maybe we can make some changes in this thing. If the economy makes a turn, the economy don't make a turn, I'm not sure we want to make it.
Might be coming.
Yeah, I just we should have maybe individually, because I have other issues that we would say to someone. If Jim recommends that he can keep control of the person, I don't have a problem with that. But he has to convince us that he can do it. I have some issues on what Marty talked about. If we can make a reservation 3 weeks ahead of time, I've heard that several times. People have been in there 3 weeks ahead of time and asked, or 2 weeks, whatever it is. I ahead of time for a tea time, and they're full. Well, they can't be full if you're there 2 weeks ahead of time because they can't make the reservation before that. Whether it's 2 weeks or 3 weeks. Now I know personally, last year it wasn't quite the full minimum. I went in to get tea times and sold them full, which maybe that can happen. My God. I don't know how many we have sitting waiting on the phone at 8 o'clock in the morning to fill up our golf.
You can do that on the computer, too. I know a guy told me, he said, I went in at 7 o'clock, right at the click at 7 o'clock, and tried to make a tea time 3 weeks in advance, and the earliest I could make one was 11:30.
Yeah, you see, that's what I'm saying. I mean, I haven't had that happen, but I've heard several times. But it's been close for me to the time. And also, I've heard somebody called and said they're a member and they want a tea time. And they said there isn't any. Somebody else called. Now, this is under Jim. Somebody else called, said, I'm from someplace, but I have a tea time, and they get it. Now, I'm up here on the floor. I don't want to be part of any of that. Because it's got to be, I like stuff that's fair. You first, and you do it, you get it. And if you've waited 2 weeks, and your last minute was full, you can't get it. But it's also tough when I run a group. I'm assuming that 2 or 3 weeks ahead of time, my group has a reservation. And I've been removed. My group has been removed because of something that happened in the government. Well, I thought I had my secret reservation. But those are some of the stuff we can talk to Jim.
And they are Billy Casper issues.
Yeah, and they are. That's something for Jim. I don't want to make them. I just want to tell Jim I want to be honest and fair.
Well, I got to admit, some of the stuff I've heard last year and I heard the year before and so forth. And I guess the question is, why isn't it corrected? Why do we continue to have this come up? And again, it's not necessarily on your watch, but you're it now. So
it's on my watch now. Jim Kurtzborn, Billy Casper Golf Company. Starting out, we're going to establish an email address for observations, complaints, tea times real time. Today's January the 2nd, on January the 1st, what's happened, or January the 2nd, what's happened. So we can document what's happening and how to fix it, and not be going back and saying this could have happened or this did happen. The only way you can fix it is to have specific information. So when I go back to the club, we're going to establish that, we'll send it out in a newsletter. You've got a budget process coming up. I'm all for tightening controls in every way. Obviously, tightening controls is going to have extra costs. If you don't find revenues with those costs, you're going to have better controls, but you're going to pay a price for that.
Well, we have two situations here. We've got the issues that were raised here that in some respects are chronic issues unrelated to golf. So we'll have a specific record of who said what and asked what questions in terms of issues. And I think those are the ones we can address and try to resolve and get back to it. On the other financial issues regarding that, we'll have a major input for that. But that'll be, as said, part of the budget process. But I don't think we can say, hey, we're going to drop it till May. I think we need to address those two to try to get some idea of where we're going. What you're recommending is, in this particular document, 3-month rate, 5-month rate, et cetera, et cetera.
The object of this recommendation in the budget process, we decide monthly rate. We are going to take, this is an example, the 5% rate. We have lots to go with that.
aside until the budget process starts for the clarification.
I guess whatever we do, we need to have it done this summer before.
That will be, I mean, the budget process. Committee chairman says it was.
President Miller, the reason I came up originally was my understanding, and I think what this committee addressed, preliminaries was to find out when we wanted these to start, whether it would be next from December to April or however it would move, if it moved, the first of the month, 16th of the month, or what short. And then to look at the whole program, and looking at the whole program, the committee recommended to eliminate for 1 month, to eliminate the $5 card for someone to use the card. And then in general, they saw the disparity in the cost of a 3-month and 5-month relative to the 3-month membership. And so they recommended a raise to those, and then decided to put a recommended dollar amount, but really I think that was just the general amount to go forward with the budgeting process. Is there anything you can add to that? Well, those are the high points. The more you discuss the details, the more the high points you get.
We do a preliminary budget. Preliminary budget is done way before the budget is approved. And during that time, after you get individual input, you need to come back with your recommendation on that. And then we can take that action. One way or the other. I think that's probably what it is. Sounds good to me. Let me ask you a question. Is the committee recommending that 3-month or 5-month membership can be taken out at any time during the year? Signed that, I think, a year ago. I think it does. I think is this renewable yearly? It's renewable yearly.
I interpreted that.
Yeah. But there's provision in there if you want to cancel the contract. sure, and I about the incentive. I don't think there was any incentive paid this past year, was there not? I asked the question a couple times, and I was told that there was an incentive paid.
I'm going to bring that to the board for the next meeting. Yeah, there is an incentive bonus.
It's in the contract.
But I was going to bring back to you the final calculation and what the amount is at the next board meeting when the audit is presented.
Actually, we don't normally agree on a whole lot, but in this contract, I said, as long as that incentive doesn't get in the way of performance, I'm okay with it. But if it does, I have a problem. So that's what we're talking about.
Charlie, just so you know, the last 3 years we've seen a substantial reduction in the subsidy that we've had to pay for golf and Sunday. To me, that's a good thing, because we were paying a ton when I first came on this board. And if you look at the numbers, we have a substantial reduction in what we have to subsidize the golf industry. I think it should be addressed. I mean, you're not the only one today that brought that up, and that's what I was talking about, chronic issues. I think it has to be addressed. And I think, Jim, you're prepared to address those issues. Is that correct? Let's go to general public comment.
Good afternoon. Bill Norcross, President, Chairman of the Golf Committee. We discussed in the Golf Committee, one of our members suggested taking a survey, because we've had a few problems lately. And we'd like to have the members kind of address how they feel about, for example, do we have this pro-am, like we have the Latino American, and the condition of the course afterwards, and the members have to go out and fill in divots and stuff like that. If they're agreeable to that, I have no problem with that. I think it's a good program, and also the course really suffers. I do. Same thing with the college or the high school thing. The kids were out there for 4 days the other day. Last week, a lot of people got bumped off for playing here. Okay, fine. But I tell you what, I've never seen a course in worse shape as far as divots. It's horrible. So I suggested to Dave Bell, his crew go out there either late in the afternoon or early in the morning and take care of the golf course. We're all going to work inward in the next couple of years, as Jim has indicated. And I think that it's a good idea, and most of our capital programs have been addressed. The greens are fine. A few teams have to be fixed. But the fairways, my dear, are just a business. There's a lot of weather conditions. We discussed that. We know it. But I tell you, somebody's got to take the bull by the horns on these kids that go out there and play. They destroy the driving range. They don't care. Davis had a problem with that. And it's just a little common sense. Go after the coach. Say, Coach, get these kids take care of the golf course. If you have parents following along with golf carts and they've got sand buckets, tell them to fill in the difference. I know I've seen some of them out there raking trap, which is fine. A couple other points that the survey, someone just mentioned, oh look, why don't we have point of sale? Like they do in the Blue Lagoon. You go to the Blue Lagoon, girl poke, 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 bang, 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 in, and out, you get the food. It makes some kind of sense, it makes it easier as service. I suggested that over a year ago. We have driving range problems, which I think are going to be resolved because we're going to look at it in the summertime. We have a lot of tournament dates that are in conflict. We have dining room dates in conflict. There's no reason for it. Yeah, for example, we had to walk them back for a set a month ahead. And all our Canadian friends, they got the post welcome back. I've talked to Andy about what Marty has talked about, closing the golf course for 18 holes while there's other big tournaments going on and have just members. Andy says, well, I said there are tea times in the morning, but it may be tough in the afternoon. Well, most of the groups that we play in the afternoon. So we're out. So these things have to be addressed. They're member issues. And I think a survey, but also a survey with answers. You have a question, can we have a fix? Yes, no, maybe. Why? How much? It's going to cost. Also, one other quick little thing we suggested too is photo of members. We've had a few younger guys, and then somebody would say, oh, gee, I remember him, but can't place him. I think not a memorial card type of thing, but just something. If you sign up, you pay your money, have your picture taken like you do at the registry of motor vehicles or over here at the district office. So at least you can have some kind of ID for people out here playing. And when they do have problems and pass away, at least respect. Thanks for your attention.
I think part of that is to pay back that clock. That's what I'm thinking. I think that's where the discussion is.
When do you know it's fake?
That's like toll on the road.
Mark Winslow again.
Marty, you'll have to do something. Really. Okay.
other public comment? Let's bring it back to the board. Any comments? I have one reaction to all the golf stuff today. I mean, this board is here to make decisions that affect the finances of the district. So when it comes to setting golf fees and so forth, I guess we're the ones that do that. But a lot of these other issues, and don't misunderstand me, they're important issues. But that should be resolved by your group and Billy Cass. They're procedural things, they're control things. They need to be addressed. If they're not being addressed, then we need to know about it. But we can't sit here and make a decision on every issue that comes up on the golf. So, as somebody so rightly put it, that's what we're paying Billy Cass for. So, if there's an issue there, either resolve it. If it can't be resolved, then bring it. Sure.
Bill Norcross, Golf Committee. Listen, I've been on this golf committee for over a year and a half. And I've taken pictures. I've done the best I could possibly do. You get your signs up there which are replaced now. The tombstones. I painted them. I put tee boxes out on all the tees. It cost hundreds of dollars. Done it for a dime. And I tell you one thing. Right? Asked Dave Ford for a speaker at the end of the contract for 3 years. We found it out. Great. And I tell you what, it's very, very frustrating to me. Because I looked at it and they have BS about certain little small things that can be fixed. Organizational and private rating. I just made up the sign. Bill Murray did a nice job. He made a presentation to the golf committee for putting a few signs up. We're going to spend $21,000 on metal signs. That's $700 a piece. You got to be kidding me. Especially if it's going to be a quality thing. It's out to bid. That's the price it's going to be. I have no problem. I got a couple of pretty big signs that I'm going to put out there to make some kind of organization out of the driving range. They can't. I'm sorry. I'm frustrated too. Members are frustrated. They expect a good golf course, and it has improved. But it's improved over 12 years since I've been here. 12 years. It shouldn't take that long. We should be addressing certain things. Greens, fairways, trees. Then you want to cut down trees in the woods? Fine. I don't care. You want to take care of something else? Fine. Take care of the playing conditions that I think, and the safety conditions that the golfers can't pay for. So that's the story. Any questions?
No. I just see what Jim has to say about it and how they respond. That's all we can.
In fairness, Jim has been here for a short period of time. But also, don't think, we've had 7 general managers over there.
Excuse me, public comment is very good.
We've had 7 general managers. So that's going to tell you something. So, I hope Jim can really work with us, and we'll try to have a good suggestive survey, and then it will be a tool for him to work with.
That's what I think we're at. Wonderful.
Recommend
sorry to hear that. Jim, do you have a response to that? Go back and forth. Lady's points, are well made. I'm more concerned about comments in the service and so forth. Do you have a problem there?